Oh yeah, welcome to another HoloNet news episode from the Infernal Brotherhood of the Scruffy Looking Nerf Herders. My name is Adam. Today is October 21st, 2025, and today's Star Wars news discussion is going to include Adam Driver's spin-off Star Wars film. News just dropped about this. It's pretty exciting. Disappointing is the real world word I should be using. Highest profit Star Wars films out there. Might not be what you think. Then again, it actually might be exactly what you think. And then, of course, actors teasing their upcoming roles in Star Wars projects. And then we'll just sort of kick the tires around the Star Wars news feed to see what this week has to offer. So this is a new series that I'm putting out. I mean, we used to do a bunch of HoloNet news shows on this channel every 2 weeks or something like that. Basically, one a month or two a month. It really depended on how busy we were. Now I have a little bit more time on my hands, and so I'm going to be doing one a week every single week, and I'm going to be trying to do it on Tuesday at 10 a.m. every single week. So I'm going to be collecting all the news I can from the entire week preceding it, and then delivering it to you here. Anything new that's going to drop on Mondays, of course, I'll be here on Tuesday to talk with you about it. And it should be a good time. So let's dive in to some HoloNet news. Oh yeah, HoloNet news. All right, so Adam Driver on Jarmusch, Star Wars, and putting filmmakers first. We're going to skip just to the pertinent parts that are Star Wars related, because that's what we care about. That's what we're here for, right? All right, quote, "I was always interested in doing another Star Wars," said Driver, who starred as Kylo Ren in the trilogy kicked off by The Force Awakens. And I just want to stop here just for a second because, look, The Force Awakens had a lot of promise, and I think the best part of it was Kylo Ren. Adam Driver as Kylo Ren was amazing. And I really, when you got into the next films and the second and third films, his character kind of shit the bed and went in some really weird locations, really weird choices. But that first film and novelization of that first film had such promise. What were the Knights of Ren and how did he get in control of them? How did he, what was his relationship? How did he learn Force powers? What was his relationship with Luke Skywalker? And why is Han Solo and Princess Leia estranged from each other? Why are they talking about their son as if they lost him? What happened? Like, there were so many wonderful story beats that we wanted to explore, and you just didn't really have time to do it because the next filmmaker came in and said, F this entire franchise, I'm going to do what I want. And Disney said, awesome. So what are you going to do? All right, Chris, how you doing, man? Yeah, this opening guitar lick is always a great welcome. I love it. Originally, I heard it from, actually pulled it from a video game, Force Commander. So it's a really great sort of techno rock version of the Imperial March. I really dig it. All right, so we're going back to this. Quote, "I have been talking about doing another one since 2021, another Star Wars film." This is, of course, very, very recently. This was published October 20th, so we're a whole day later. So it's not like this was, way back when Force Awakens happened, or even The Last Jedi, or Rise of Skywalker is the last one. So he said he's been always talking about it. Kathleen Kennedy even reached out. He always said, with a great director and a great story, I'd be there in a second. I loved the character and loved playing him. That's great to hear because there's a lot I would love to see. I would love to see some prequel content. I would love to see, like, before The Force Awakens, him and Luke Skywalker through their training, going off on adventures like we got with the EU, with Ben Skywalker and Luke Skywalker going off on their own and fighting Darksiders and being estranged from the New Republic. I mean, the EU had some really great content in it. It had some wonky garbage too, but the promise of this is exciting, right? What it could portend to. We'll get a little bit later in this article and get disappointed because that's what we do. All right. He loved the character and he loved playing him. Driver said that he took the concept to Soderbergh for a film that would take place after 2019's Rise of Skywalker. So Soderbergh is great. Now, let's see what we can find on his sort of previous films. All sorts of stuff here. Let's look at filmography. So things that stick, King of the Hill. That's hilarious. Grey's Anatomy. Aaron Brockovich was great. Ocean's 11. Come on. That was fantastic. Ocean's 12. Meh. All right. These other ones. Magic Mike. I didn't know he did that. I've never actually seen it, but I know women love it. All right. So I haven't really seen a whole bunch of his stuff, but I did really like how he put together Ocean's franchise. Solaris sounds familiar. Maybe I saw that. I don't know. In any case, if Adam Driver, who is a phenomenal actor, really wants to work with Steven Soderbergh, he must really appreciate his vision and what he has to say. So he took a concept to Soderbergh for a film that would take place after the Rise of Skywalker. Now, remember, Rise of Skywalker, Adam Driver's Kylo Ren died. Like, he did a little tongue-on-tongue action with Rey, and it was too much for his poor little heart, and he died. So how he could possibly come back, I mean, that's kind of an exciting idea, especially if he had a really good script. So the movie culminated in Ren's redemption and apparent death. Driver had undertaken the trilogy with an arc in mind for Ren, inverted the journey of Darth Vader. Driver had undertaken the trilogy with an arc in mind for Ren that inverted the journey of Darth Vader. As the trilogy evolved, it didn't play out that way. Driver felt there was unfinished business for Kylo Ren, or he was known before during turning to the dark side, Ben Solo. So I like this because the original premise of Kylo Ren was supposed to be he started out as a good guy, i.e. Darth Vader and Anakin Skywalker, ended up as a bad guy, and he was supposed to be bad through and through. He wasn't supposed to be redeemable originally. But of course, that's not what happened. And so it's interesting that once Adam Driver saw this, he realizes there's unfinished business for Ben Solo, and he wants to return and do this story, which is incredibly exciting. The original concept of Kylo Ren was a conflicted character who descended into darkness, the opposite of what happens to Vader. I wish they would have stuck to that. Yeah, exactly. So, Soderbergh and Rebecca Flint outlined a story that the group then pitched to Kennedy, Lucasfilm Vice President Carrie Beck, and Lucasfilm Chief Creative Officer Dave Filoni. They were interested, so the filmmakers then pulled in Scott Z. Burns to write a script. Driver calls the result one of the coolest expletive scripts I have ever been a part of. He's been in some great films, independent films, big budget films. He has been an incredible actor in everything that he's ever done. If this is one of the coolest effing scripts that he's ever been a part of, I want to know what this script is. Like as a Star Wars fan, I've got to know what this could possibly be. We presented this script to Lucasfilm. They loved the idea. They totally understood our angle and why we were doing it, Driver said. We took it to Bob Iger and Alan Bergman, and they said no. They didn't see how Ben Solo was alive, and that was that. Unbelievable, right? They have a great script. They have an actor that is into getting back into the character. They have a vacuum of films. Like, what's going on? We hear about Starfighter. We hear about The Mandalorian and Grogu. Those two seem to be actually happening, but nothing else. Why wouldn't you greenlight a A-list actor, an A-list screenwriter and director to put together this amazing project that they're excited about? Okay, so Adam Driver, I know you watch this show because why wouldn't you? I need to see the script. Shoot the Infernal Brotherhood at gmail.com, your script, And I will get it out here for everyone. I want to know what this script is. It's got to be good, right? So it was called The Hunt for Ben Solo, and it was really cool, adds Driver, but it's no more, so I can finally talk about it. The Hunt for Ben Solo. What does this mean? So is it tertiary characters trying to get to Exegol and find his corpse and then resurrect him that way? Is it sort of lightsiders or other sort of tangential Jedi searching for him? Is it survivors from the Jedi Temple that he pulled down with the Knights of Ren? I mean, there's a lot of really great potential. Is it the Knights of Ren who survived from the Rise of Skywalker who are coming back hunting for him to pay him back for having defeated them and turned on them? Like, this is also an incredibly exciting idea. I want to know. All right, after the critical reaction to the sequel trilogy, there's a script to redeem the character. They need to do it. Yeah, you'd like to think that. So would I. But Bob Iger and Alan Bergman said 9. Soderbergh, in a statement, said, I really enjoyed making the movie in my head. I'm just sorry the fans won't get to see it. Let us know. Let us know. Leak it to us. Representatives for Disney and Lucasfilm declined to comment. It's been a period of transition for the feature film operations of Star Wars. Kennedy, the longtime Lucasfilm president, is expected to step down by the end of the year. After a full film lull, feature film lull, numerous projects are in various stages of development or production, including Jon Favreau's The Mandalorian and Grogu, Sean Levy's Starfighter with Ryan Gosling, a film directed by Sharmeen Obaid Chinoy featuring Daisy Ridley returning as Rey. Yeah, right. James Mangold directed movie and a new saga helmed by Simon Kinberg. So the James Mangold is actually the Dawn of the Jedi Tales of the Jedi era from the EU comics. They're going back with James Mangold and investigating that. I've always been a fan of James Mangold. And while the latest Indiana Jones film that he directed wasn't 100%, it was still fun to watch. I still enjoyed it. And I would love to see what he could do with the Dawn of the Jedi era, of which I am putting out a whole bunch of weekly holocron lore videos about Dawn of the Jedi era. I actually started one today, so check that out if you haven't seen it yet. It's about the Jedi Order, which is the precursor order before the Jedi, where they actually worship the light and dark side equally and maintained balance with it. It's a very, very cool history. Any case, so for Driver, who's starring in Soderbergh's 2017 heist comedy Lucky Logan, the decision was mystifying. Who wouldn't want to see a Soderbergh-directed Star Wars film? Seriously, I would love to. Quote, we wanted to be judicial about how to spend money and be economical with it and do it for less than most, but in the same spirit of what these movies are, which is handmade and character-driven. That sounds amazing! Driver says Empire Strikes Back being, in my opinion, the standard of what these movies were. Yeah, and he's right. But he is, to me, one of my favorite characters of all time. He lives his code, lives his ethics, doesn't compromise. I need to know more about this, man. What do you guys think? I mean, Adam Driver coming back as Ben Solo, and maybe he takes the turn to the dark side again, or he just finally comes out and cleanses himself. If everyone was in for it, everyone wanted to do it, except the two people in charge of Disney as a corporation, maybe you should listen to the creatives and not the pencil pushers. If everyone's on board already, then you have a done deal. I don't understand these freaking industry heads. They don't make any logical sense. This is a home run, people. A home run. The amount of canceled Star Wars projects in the past 10 years is unbelievable. Disney must be losing money on the pre-production costs. They just sell the IP. Yeah, I agree. They should get rid of it. If they're not willing to do great Star Wars stories, get it out of their portfolio. For Adam Driver to be excited about it, it must be awesome, as I thought he was burned out. I thought he hated it too. But then I saw this come across the newswire, and I got excited. Like, come on. Let's do this thing. Adam Driver's awesome as Kylo Ren. All right, so that's that story. Let me know what you all think about Adam Driver coming back as Ben Solo in The Hunt for Ben Solo. Is it something that, even though right now the powers that be don't want to make it, but all the creative team does, even the presidency of Lucasfilms, is it possible to still get it off the ground with enough fan furor? I'd say we could at least try. I mean, there was a Solo 2, call to action for years, and it never happened. So maybe we're just screaming at a void, but I would genuinely love to see this. All right, next up, we've got revealed Star Wars movie with the highest profits. So before we reveal what the highest profit Star Wars film is, can you guess? Because there's a lot we have to take into this, and we're going to get into it in the article here. But, you got to think about the initial actual budget. You have to think about marketing. You have to think about merchandise and post-market, like rentals and digital and physical releases. And then total it all together. And of course, you got to factor in worldwide and stuff. So this is from October 19 by Carolyn Reed, of course, on Forbes. Analysis of documents filed by Disney have revealed which of its Star Wars movies made the highest profits at the box office. And remarkably, it was the film with the highest costs. That's surprising. Usually, it's the lowest budget films that do really, really well in the theater end up with the highest profit. So, have I ever done a Rise of the Resistance ride at Disney World, Disneyland? No. I really have. I've never been to Disneyland as an adult. I went to Disney World once as a little child, and I've never gone back. All right, so calculating the profit made by a movie requires knowing how much revenue it generated for the studio and how much it costs to make. The former is a matter of public knowledge through Amazon Box Office Mojo, while the latter is usually a closely guarded secret. That's because when movies are made in the United States, studios combine the costs of them in their overall expenses and don't disclose how much was spent in each one. It's a different story for movies that are filmed in the United Kingdom. Studios shooting in the UK get a reimbursement of up to 25.5% of the sum they spend in the country, provided that at least 10% of the core cost of the production is incurred there. In order to demonstrate this to the UK authorities, studios set up a separate production company there to produce each movie they make in country. The companies have to file financial statements which shine a spotlight on the mysterious world of film finances as they disclose everything from the total cost of production and the level of reimbursement. All right, so because Star Wars films are filmed in UK, we're able to calculate this. And it goes into a full deep dive of how theaters charge for watching films, how films charge the theaters, demanding money back, about the Blu-ray and DVD sales and merchandising, and all of that goes into everything. So let's see what, and of course you can see a bunch of fantastic Star Wars merchandise here. So in short, if someone invests $100 in a project and gets back $50, they lose 50% of their money. That's called math, people. If they get back $100, they broke even with zero profit. However, if they got $150, they made 50% profit, or a 50% return on investment, ROI. So accordingly, calculating the ROI involves deducting the investment from the studio's share of the takings and dividing the remainder of the net sum that it spent. And here's what we've got. Rogue One has a return of investment of 95.4%. Now, it cost $327.5 million. It made $258 million. The Last Jedi was $414 million. It made $324 million. So Rogue One cost an incredible amount, but it had the best return on investment compared to the other ones. Force Awakens had $638 million in cost. Its profit was $500 million, and it got 93.4% return on investment. So you have to think of the return on investment in relation to total monies. The percentage is going to be skewed. When you just want to look at the profit, The Force Awakens made the most profit. It also cost the most to make. So it got an incredible return on investment. And with that amount of profit, it is the best Disney era investment for Star Wars that it could ever possibly conceive of. Solo lost $100 million, and I think it's because they didn't do hardly any announcements for it. They didn't do a lot of promotion for it. They did like a Village Inn promotion, and that's kind of it, or like a Denny's one. And it was right after The Last Jedi, which was just a divisive film by anyone's perspective, which then soiled people on even wanting to watch Solo: A Star Wars Story. But I would challenge you now, go back and watch Solo: A Star Wars Story. I think you're going to find that it's a fun, entertaining ride, and you're going to have a good time. Now, I would like to know what the original script was going to be, how much more slapsticky it was before Ron Howard was brought on board. And I would love to see a sequel, because even though Alden Ehrenreich didn't do a 100% perfect Han Solo, he did his version of Han Solo, which I'm okay with. I mean, there are some choices like the Solo last name being something that just some rando dude administrator made up. That's BS. And the fact that when he was a kid, the alien worm thing that was the sort of like in charge of the little thief ring that he was a part of spoke in this crazy little voice rather than an alien voice with, captions, which I think it really should have been. Other than those two main points, I really enjoyed it. So, what are you going to do? Solo budget was inflated by having to pay for 2 movies with all the reshoots that Howard came on board. Yeah, and that's the other part. It would have probably been a lot less. I don't know if it's twice the budget, but it's certainly 1.5 at least, because they had to scrap nearly most of the film that was shot and reshoot everything, sort of with rewrites every day as they were reshooting. So it was a big deal. But in any case, it's interesting to see the profit and loss margin of all these Disney era films and realizing that The Force Awakens, the very, very first one, made the most profit. Look at The Rise of Skywalker. It only made a profit of $48 million. That's globally. $48 million. That's garbage. That's a failure by every metric. I mean, after The Last Jedi, no one wanted Star Wars anymore. Like, they were so upset. So at least it didn't dip like Solo did and actually cost more, but Solo cost more because they had to do reshoots and reimagine the entire story. The Force Awakens, though, like that had promise on its back. People were so excited. And if they would have taken cues from J.J. Abrams and the novelization in moving forward into The Last Jedi and stuff, it would have been an infinitely better series and better sequel trilogy and received much better as well. But what are you going to do? The diehard fans are always going to keep loving it and watching it because we're drug addicts, basically. But the discerning fans among us are going to be a little bit more critical about what we watch. And I mean, Rogue One, loved it. Solo, I really, really enjoyed it. The Force Awakens, I had a great time watching that because it felt a little more EU until we got to The Last Jedi, in which case I even stopped doing this podcast for a while because I was so pissed and I was so bummed about what they were doing with Star Wars that when we did bring this podcast back, we took a much more EU-centric focus because we weren't happy with the way that Disney was managing this IP. And clearly, with diminishing returns for each of its movies as it's releasing them, they're not doing a great job either. And then when you have opportunities like Adam Driver coming with Soderbergh saying they want to do a film and the powers that be say no, no wonder why this IP is shit in the bed. I mean, I have no high hopes for Mandalorian and Grogu as a film, and I have no high hopes for Starfighter as a film. But I am willing to be surprised, and I'm willing to have my mind changed. And as fans of this franchise, I think that's the best possible place that we can be. We may not look forward to something or we may not see a need for it, but at least be open to it. And if you experience it and you enjoy it, okay, have your mind changed. If you don't, okay, move on. That's what I think we need to do. All right, so I just thought I wanted to show, especially after we were talking about budgets with Adam Driver's proposed The Hunt for Ben Solo film with Steven Soderbergh, then I thought we might as well just look into what was the best return on investment films based on total profits over loss. All right, the next one I wanted to talk about, the next article, Oscar nominee 76 teases her role in upcoming Star Wars film. The actress is opening up all about her new Star Wars role. So, Oscar-nominated actress Sigourney Weaver, whom I love. I have loved her since I watched Ghostbusters as a child, and then everything else. Like, she was in a film called Copycat with Harry Connick Jr., which was amazing. She was a agoraphobic sort of investigator type person who serial killer was played by Harry Connick Jr. brilliantly, was trying to murder her. Great film. But anyway, I've always loved her. And then, of course, Alien and Aliens, and I stopped there until the new ones came out. All right, so Oscar-nominated actress Sigourney Weaver is teasing some information about her role in the New Republic's Adelphi Rangers leader, Colonel Ward, in Star Wars The Mandalorian and Grogu. I did not know that she was going to be in it. It doesn't make me want to see the film anymore, but I do love me some Sigourney Weaver. People magazine reported that Weaver briefly discussed shooting the film, which premieres May 22nd, 2026, while on stage for the Alien and Beyond panel at New York Comic Con during the October 10 panel. Weaver, who famously played Ellen Ripley in Alien franchise, said she was approached to play Colonel Ward by the director and co-writer of The Mandalorian and Grogu, Jon Favreau. And look, I know people have sort of soiled themselves on Jon Favreau as of late. I have always loved his films. I still watch Chef like once every quarter. It's just a joy-filled film. The original Iron Man is an incredible film. He does great work. And as long as the studio stays out of the way, I feel like he always succeeds. So anyway, she soon agreed to get familiar with the Mandalorian series, which stars Pedro Pascal as said Mandalorian, also known as Din Djarin. The actress said that she was taken by Pascal's performance as well as his puppet sidekick, Grogu. Quote, I was of course amazed by it and fell in love with it, and Pedro Pascal and Grogu, and said Weaver on the panel. Also, I love how the Star Wars universe it's not trying to pay off each movie with the whole backlog of movies. It's now individual stories set in the same universe. She also shared that she interacted with Pascal, Grogu, and some other interesting characters during the production of The Mandalorian and Grogu. I was on the set for a few days, but I was surrounded by all kinds of different creatures. I got a drink from someone with a very different kind of head, said Weaver during the interview. What does that mean? According to People magazine, Weaver shared that the film takes place following The Mandalorian Season 3, which aired in 2023. Yeah, we assumed that. Thanks. At this point, it's been 6 years and counting since the last Disney movie. I think the movie will do well as people are starved for cinematic Star Wars movie. Yeah, especially when you reflect on Star Wars The Clone Wars came into theaters with, I think, 2 or 3 different episodes. It might have been 4, called The Clone Wars Movie. I saw that with my kids in the theater, and we loved it. And it was a packed theater because at that time, there were not a lot of Star Wars films. They just wrapped up episode 3, years before. And so we were sort of starved for that content. We're in the same space right now. And so I think you're absolutely right, Chris. The second half of this that I wanted to touch on was Pedro Pascal teased information about the upcoming Star Wars film in an April 2025 interview. According to People magazine, The Mandalorian and Grogu will focus on Din Djarin and his young apprentice Grogu help the fledgling New Republic following the fall of the Empire, per the film's synopsis. In a joint April 2025 interview with Good Morning America alongside Weaver, Pascal shared information about the upcoming Star Wars film. I can tell you that it stars myself and Sigourney Weaver and a little green guy. I will say that, said Pascal, who played the Mandalorian since the show's first season, which premiered in 2019. Jon Favreau is providing probably one of the biggest adventures that we've seen on our first Star Wars movie were released into the world, and it's going to be big. So they say that, and we've watched the, let me look at this, the Mandalorian and Grogu trailer. So we've actually watched this. And, it's a great trailer. I enjoy it. I think, we're probably going to get paused here the more this sort of plays on, but I'll fight it. But I'm not sure I like the idea of Grogu himself being like a big part of anything. Like, a new bounty hunter or something. And I certainly don't want to hear Grogu talk ever. I want him to perpetually be. If we see him grow up, I need a time scene over rather than slowly growing. So, I love force fights. I love jetpacks. I love sort of gladiator tournament style fighting arenas. So all of this feels very The Mandalorian show to me. Pot it down. I love seeing AT-ATs, AT-ATs, operating transport vehicles. The logo, I'm not a big fan of. If we just take a look at that logo, look at the and. It looks a little sort of 1950s horror film. And Mandalorian and Grogu, the way it's presented, it looks like it's trying to sort of be like Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark or something like that, like adventure, whatever. I don't know. The movie, you're right, is in a tough spot, Chris, timeline-wise, and we know where the sequel trilogy starts and what happens to the Jedi Temple, so they're limited a bit. But I think this is playing in to everything that's going to be happening with like Ahsoka, with Thrawn, and all that jazz. Like, it may not directly be influenced by those events, but I think it's going to play into it because we have the Filoniverse that we're all following with the Mandalorian series and all the other garbage that came after it trying to tie into it, including Ahsoka, which I still think is hot garbage, but it had great moments in it, namely the actors themselves. Ray Park was amazing. I think that was his name. But I'm open to being surprised, and I'm open to my mind being changed by the second season of Ahsoka. So I just wanted to sort of touch on the Mandalorian and Grogu trailer since we haven't done that yet on this channel. All right, any character story ideas from the expanded universe that you were hoping to appear in this movie? In the Mandalorian and Grogu, no. I mean, if I want the EU to be brought in, I want the X-Wing novels to come in. I want the sequel trilogy to be wiped away, and I want them to have Luke Skywalker and Mara Jade come in and do the entire... I mean, they could do the Crimson Empire story arc, which is great. They could do just the Emperor coming back, but have it be the original version of the Emperor coming back, where he had a bunch of clones, and then Luke had to go and destroy the clone vats and all that stuff. And then the Emperor was trying to inhabit the body of one of the Solo children, which is a cool story idea, horrific. I would love to see them do a Death Troopers, like a Red Harvest / Death Troopers duology film series. Like, the prequel of Death Troopers and then Death Troopers itself, because that's just pure horror. Mike Flanagan could nail it, and they could do it in this season, and it would be amazing. It wouldn't be a huge budget. It would feel like an Evil Dead film, which would just be great. An Evil Dead film in space, basically. I would love to see that. In any case, let me know what you think about Sigourney Weaver and Pedro Pascal in The Mandalorian and Grogu, and whether or not this is something you're even looking forward to. And are you willing to have your mind changed? Are you willing to go spend your hard-earned money to watch the film, which might disappoint you? I went and saw The Last Jedi 3 times because I was sure I was misunderstanding something or I was missing something. And then I bought it on digital and watched it again just to make sure that I didn't like it. And I don't like it at all. It is a chore to sit through. But that's the kind of fan I am. I'm trying to have my mind changed, and it just doesn't work with the sequel trilogy. All right. So I wanted to also touch on a little bit of Star Wars news from StarWars.com themselves. And the last thing I wanted to do here was cover the Star Wars Starfighter announcement. So we've got Lucasfilm announces casting for Star Wars Starfighter. Now, this was originally going to be from the creator of Wonder Woman. For the life of me, the mind is, I can't remember her name right now, but I was really excited for the announcement. She fell out of it. And now we have Sean Levy, who, is great. Sean Levy's great. I mean, he did that Dungeons and Dragons movie, the most recent one, which had a lot of heart. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it a lot. And then I think he did the that Star Wars kids series, Skeleton Crew. I think he was the one that did Skeleton Crew. I could be wrong. But in any case, let's look into this. Today, to mark the start of production on Star Wars Starfighter, Lucasfilm, and this is, of course, on August 28th, 2025. So this is an old article, but I haven't talked about Star Wars Starfighter at all on this channel, and so I wanted to make sure that I covered it a little bit. So Lucasfilm has announced the full cast for the upcoming feature film from Sean Levy, joining the previously announced Ryan Gosling. The film stars Flynn Gray, Matt Smith. Matt Smith is great. Mia Goth. If she's not an evil person, you're missing out on a possibility here. Mia Goth can be horrifyingly annoying or stunning. And it's crazy because she does both in the same film. Like I watched one in the theater. It was this vacation film, and she was awesome 2/3 of the film as an actress. The last third, she turned into the most annoying piece of shit I've ever seen on film. And it was just because she was portraying this character that way. But seeing her in Triple X and then the prequel to that, I mean, she can be a fun actress to watch. And she's definitely talented. She just has a very peculiar look that I think turns a lot of people off. So that's something that we really need to keep in mind. But her look, her style, I think would play really well into either an Imperial Remnant character or even like a Darksider, like someone to tease future sinister type storylines. I think that's what she would be a great one for. We have Aaron Pierre, Simon Bird, Jamael Westman, Daniel Ings, and Amy Adams. Amy Adams. I love Amy Adams. She's great. Not just because of Superman or Man of Steel, the whole DCEU, but I mean, anything she's been in that I've seen is great. She does great sci-fi work. She was in this incredible sci-fi film, Arrival, which blew my mind, and it's still one of my favorite sci-fi films of all time. It's that good. If you haven't seen her in it, you definitely need to check it out. Chris, you love the series on what we liked about the sequel trilogy. That would be a fun thing to do with various Disney Star Wars shows. Tough to do, but a nice balance. It would be really tough to do, specifically because you'd have to rewatch them all. And watching a whole series just to do what we liked about it is a tall ask for anyone. I mean, it would very much be along the lines of when we're reviewing it, what did you like about it? What didn't you like about it type thing. But I to your point, I like the concept. We just have to try to figure out how to move forward with it. So Star Wars Starfighter is an all-new standalone adventure. The film, which had begun production as an entirely original story set in a period of time never explored. It'll be released theatrically May 28th, 2027. Quote, I feel a proud sense of excitement and honor as we begin production on Star Wars Starfighter, says the filmmaker Sean Levy. From the day Kathleen Kennedy called me up, inviting me to develop an original adventure in this incredible Star Wars galaxy, this experience has been a dream come true, creatively and personally. Star Wars shaped my sense of what story can do, how characters and cinematic moments can live with us forever. To join the storytelling galaxy with such brilliant collaborators on screen and off is the thrill of a lifetime. Director Sean Levy. The film is produced by Levy and Kathleen Kennedy. Executive producers are Ryan Gosling, Dan Levine, Mary McLaughlin, and Josh McLaughlin. The script is by Jonathan Trooper. So, and you can see a sort of little look here of the Instagram tease of the characters. Ryan Gosling looks very sort of scoundrel-esque, which I dig. And I like the idea of, and that must be like Flynn Gray right there, that kid. But I like the idea of an older, sort of ne'er-do-well scoundrel looking after kids. But that's what Skeleton Crew was. So is he just going back to the well and trying to do the same sort of Amblin styled Star Wars film? Because I'm not for that. I have all the Amblin I could want. I grew up with it. I don't need a Star Wars film that is trying to make me feel like it's from my youth. I want something that's going to be exciting and new and different. That's what I'm looking for. And that's why I didn't like Skeleton Crew very much, because it was too derivative. It reminded you of the Goonies. It reminded you of E.T. It reminded you of all the shows that you watched and loved as kids, instead of standing out as its own entity. And that's the worst thing you could do, is paying on nostalgia and not delivering on originality. I'm hoping that's not the case with this, and I'm hoping that it's going to be great. But again, that's just me hoping. All right. Well, that is all I have, all the news that I had that I wanted to share this week for Star Wars. I know there's a whole lot of other stuff, as we had just a Comic-Con release dump of a bunch of new Star Wars projects and products. But maybe I'll cover some of that next week, unless we have some other exciting Star Wars news for me to cover then. But that is it for this HoloNet news episode. Thank you all so very much for watching it. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like, comment below with your thoughts, and subscribe so you'll catch the next episode, where we'll explore more Star Wars news. I also have a Patreon account. If you enjoy this series or other content I produce, I'd like to invite you to become a patron. You can also become a member of this YouTube channel. Links are in the description below. Thank you for watching. Until next time, my fellow scruffy-looking Nerf Herders, may the Force be with you.